Hey, good day, grade 8. So we are starting with geometry today. That basically is everything to do with finding the size of angles. Okay, so geometry, this is all about finding the size of angles. Okay, and I'm also actually going to add in here now, although we won't actually get to it in this lesson, but also with geometry, very important, this is the section that has reasons in it. Okay, this will make sense to you further down the line, but as you write your notes, please add that in. This is the section that is all about reasons. If you don't write your reasons, you will lose half of your marks at least. Okay, now before we get into proper geometry, I first want to remind you of some things that you learned last year. So the first one is how to name lines in geometry. Okay, now when you name a line in geometry, its name comes from points that are on that line. So firstly, points are numbered, or named rather, with a capital letter. Okay, so if I go ahead and put a point on a diagram, I would have to name or label that point with a capital letter. Let's call it point A. Okay, so points are named with capital letters, one single capital letter. When you want to label your line, a line is labeled with two capital letters, and they are the letters that are labels for the points that are on that line. So if that point was called point A and that point was called point B, then this line would be called line AB, or line BA if you want it to be otherwise, same thing. Okay, so point named with one single capital letter, a line is named by two capital letters. Just quickly on this, if we were going to be very technical, a line technically never ends. A line carries on in both directions. So this AB that I've drawn is not a line, it's actually called a line segment, but we don't need to get all twisted up about that. Okay, but just know that technically a line doesn't have an end. This is technically a line segment. Okay, so we're going to look at naming a few lines. Okay, so here's our diagram. You can see we've got lots of lines. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 lines in this diagram. And we're going to go ahead and name them. So I'm going to color code them. Have I got enough? Yes, I do. Okay, I'm going to color code them. So there's one line. Here's another line. Oh, should have taken all my lids off beforehand. Here's a third line, and then bright yellow for the last line. There we go. Okay, so we're going to label all those lines, give them their names. So starting with this bright yellow one. Okay, there are many names that we could call this line. Remember, a line is named by two capital letters after 2 points on that line. Now this yellow line has 4 points on it. You can pick any two of those points and you're still referring to the same line. So I could call this yellow line, line DJ, and somebody else could call it line BH, and we would be referring to the same line. Okay, so as long as you pick 2 points on that line, you're right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and write down a few of its names. It's got a lot, so we don't have to write them all down, but we could call it line DB even. Okay, still referring to the same line. So it could be DB, or it could be line DH, or it could be line DJ. Okay, it could also be all of these letters backwards. We could also call it BD if we wanted to, if you want to go from right to left. Okay, I'm going to write one more, or we could have called it line BH. Okay, that is definitely not all of the options, so that's just some of them. So that yellow line could be called any of those names. Okay, let's do the blue one next. Okay, blue one has fewer names because the blue one has only 3 points on it, point A, B, and C. But please don't call it line ABC, okay? Lines are named by only 2 capital letters. Okay, 2 of the points on the line. So this blue line could be line AB, or it could be line AC, or it could be line BC, or it could be any of those backwards. We could call it CA, or BA, or CB if we wanted. Okay, as long as you've got 2 points that are on that line. So these are options for the blue line. I think we're getting the hang of this. I think you should be getting the idea. Pink line, we could call the pink line BF, okay, after 2 points on the line, or maybe BG, or maybe FG. Okay, just pick 2 points on the line and that will give you its name. Okay, and then our last one, the groen eentjie, here he is. Okay, so the green guy, again, he'll have quite a few options for his name because it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 points on that line. So again, I'm just going to go for a couple. We could call it EH if we wanted. Or we could call it FI if we wanted. Okay, we just pick 2 points. Just for fun, I'm going to do a backwards one. We could call it IE if we wanted. Okay, there are tons of different ways that we could name these lines. It's very unlikely in a test or an exam that you will be asked to name a line. It's much more likely that they will refer you to a line, so they'll say, look at line DJ, and then they'll ask you questions about it. And then you need to know what line are they talking about. They're talking about the line that has the points D and J on it. That would be the yellow one. Okay. So once you know how to name lines, you also need to know how to name angles. Now remember, an angle is formed by 2 lines. Okay, so when you name an angle, you first need to understand what an angle is. Okay, it's formed by 2 lines that cross or meet each other. Okay, that meet at a point. They could cross each other, but very important, they must meet at a point. Okay, so something like this. If I had line AB, and that met line AC, then here would our angle be. Okay, so we've got line AB and line AC meeting there at that point A, and they form an angle here at A. Okay, now when we name an angle, it has to do also with these letters. It's got to do with the letters of the 2 lines that form it, as well as the letter where the angle is in the middle. Okay, so when we name an angle is named with 3 capital letters. So a line has 2 capitals, an angle has 3 capitals. Okay, the first capital letter is from the point on your first arm. Now arm is just a fancy way of saying the line that forms an angle. Okay, so line AB here is an arm. So we choose a point on the first arm, so let's say point B. The second letter is the letter at the vertex. Vertex is just a fancy way of saying the corner, so A is the corner here, it's where the angle is. And then the third letter is from the second arm. Okay, so that would be C. So this angle's name, that little angle, that pink one there, formed by arms A, B, and AC, we would call that angle, angle B, A, C. Okay, and more than that, you always need to put a little kappie over the middle letter. You put a kappie over the letter where the angle is. Okay, so I'm going to actually just add that as a note here. One at the vertex with a kappie. Okay. So where the angle is must get a little kappie over it. Okay, so again, we're going to label or name some of the angles in this diagram. If you have not managed to keep up with writing down the notes, please just go back, pause, and write down. We've got a lot to get through, so I can't go slowly. Okay, so let's go ahead and name some of these angles, or label some of these angles. So I'm going to do this angle here. I can only do 4 because I've only got 4 colors. We're going to do that one there. We're going to do this one over here. And let's do this one over here. Okay, so we're going to do those 4 angles. So let's start with the bright yellow again. That bright yellow one, I'm just going to do one possible name for it, but again, there are lots of possible names for most of these. Okay, so this yellow angle here, let's look what's forming it. This diagram is going to get a little bit messy with all the colors in a minute. Okay, that angle is being formed by those 2 lines, right? So it's being formed by arm AB and arm BF, where B is in the middle where that vertex is. It's at the corner. Okay, so remember, our angle is formed by 3 capital letters. The name is formed with 3 capital letters. One on the first arm, which is point A. One where the vertex is, where the corner is, B, and the kappie goes on that one. and then one on our second arm, there is F. Okay, why do I not say A, B, D? Because technically D is also on this line. If I said A, B, D, I would be referring to that shape, so it would be the blue angle. Okay, so you must make sure you follow the line that it forms, or that forms it rather. So it's A, B, F is our angle there for our yellow angle. Okay, next one, blue one. That's the one we actually just named already while we were talking about the other one. So our blue angle is formed by those two lines. Okay, line AB and line DB. So our first letter in our name comes from our first arm. There he is, A. The second letter comes from the corner, B, and then the copy goes on that B, on the middle letter. And then our third letter comes from the second arm, which is up here, D. So that angle is angle ABD. Okay, next up, green guy. Okay, the arms that form it are the arm FB and BC, right? So our name for our angle will be FBC. Okay, I'm speeding up a little bit. Okay, so that angle would be called angle FBC because we start at F, we go up to B where the corner is, and then we go across to C. Okay, and then our last one, this pink one down at the bottom. Okay, those are the two lines that form our pink one. So we've got line BF and line EF forming it. Okay, so here you can call it angle BFE or angle EFB. Same thing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call it angle BFE. Okay, so a point on my first arm, the angle, and then a point on my second arm. Okay, you could have also actually called this DFE if you wanted to. Same thing. Okay, and that's it for naming angles and lines. We're going to have a quick look at special angles. You should definitely know your special angles from last year. I know my class definitely did. Okay, so let's have a look at our special angles. Acute angles. Starting with an acute angle. I know you're all busy shouting at your screen. You know what it is. Okay, an acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees. Okay, an angle that is smaller than 90 degrees. Okay, so if we were to draw an acute angle, sorry, I'm making a big noise and a big mess here. If we were to draw an acute angle, okay, there's my one line. That would be 90 degrees, right? If that's my line, that would be 90. So it's anything less than 90. So that there would be an acute angle, anything less than 90 degrees. Okay, next up, a right angle. Right angle is just a fancy way of saying 90 degrees. So a right angle is a 90 degree angle. Okay, so we're going to draw ourselves a right angle. A right angle is one that is a perfect corner, like the corner of a room, a corner of I nearly said a circle, a corner of a square or a rectangle. Okay, now with 90 degree angles, we don't label or we don't use the same symbol to show an angle as we do for other angles, like we've done here. For a right angle, we use a little blocky. You saw this when we did Pythagoras. Okay, so that's how we indicate a 90 degree or a right angle. Okay, next up, obtuse angle. An obtuse angle is an angle that is bigger than 90 degrees. Okay, so it's an angle bigger than 90, but smaller than 180. Okay, so it is bigger than this angle we've just drawn here, so we've got to open that up more. But remember, 180 degrees is a straight line we're getting there. So it's bigger than this, but it's not yet a full straight line. Okay, so let's draw ourselves one. Okay, so there's our first arm. There will be our vertex, so that's 90. A straight line would be flat, so I need it somewhere between the two. So anywhere between the two would be an obtuse angle. Okay, next up, a straight line. Okay, a straight angle, sorry. So this is an angle of 180 degrees, and also more than that, it is literally a straight line. It looks like a straight line. It's two lines that join and form a straight line. Okay, so a straight angle would be if I had one line like that, and my second line literally continued from my first line. So that would be a straight angle of 180 degrees. Okay, next up, reflex angle. A reflex angle, and we don't see these too much in our calculations, we more deal with the first four, but a reflex angle is an angle that is it's bent over backwards basically. So it's an angle that's greater than 180 degrees, so it's bigger than this, we've got to open it up even more, but it hasn't yet formed a full revolution. Okay, so a reflex angle is an angle bigger than 180 but smaller than 360. Okay, also remember to always put your little degree signs, please. You might catch me out occasionally forgetting mine. I know I'm guilty of that. Do not be guilty of that as well. Okay, an angle bigger than 180 but smaller than 360 degrees. Okay, so if we draw this, there's our starting arm. Okay, and that was our straight line. That was 180, but we're opening it up even more. Okay, so that would be a reflex angle. Okay, it's bent over backwards. And then our last one, revolution. Oh, I didn't leave myself much space for this one. But a revolution is an angle of 360 degrees. Okay, it's basically gone all the way around. Okay, if you face the wall and then you turn all the way around so you're facing the wall again, you've turned 360 degrees. It's all the way around. Okay, so when we draw this, it's a little bit difficult to draw. So there's our one arm. Okay, now if we open that up, I've got something smaller than this big ruler. Okay, I'm just going to have to use this cookie. Okay, so there's our first arm, right? Now, when you form an angle, you put another arm and you open it up from that same corner. So there we're still an acute angle, an acute angle, an acute angle. Now we're a right angle. Now we're an obtuse angle. Obtuse, obtuse, obtuse. Now we're a straight angle. Okay, and if we keep going, we're now a reflex angle. Until we get back to where we actually started, now we're a revolution. We've gone all the way around. So when we draw it, it actually looks kind of like a lollipop. Okay. So it looks like it's one line, but it technically is one line, but it's almost like we had two lines and it went all the way around so that they're now lying on top of each other. So that would be our revolution of 360 degrees there. Okay. Then the last little thing we want to talk about, so everything up till now was just revision. It's stuff you've seen before. Now we're talking about, you might have heard these words in grade 7, you might not have, but it's very important. We're talking about supplementary and complementary angles. So firstly, supplementary angles, these are angles that add up to 180 degrees. If I've got two angles and I say they are supplementary, it means they add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees. Complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so if I say I've got angles that are supplementary, it means they add up to 180. If I say my angles are complementary, it means they add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so we're going to do a few examples with looking at these two words until we get used to them. So, examples. First one, we're going to find the value of y if 30 degrees and y are supplementary. Okay, so they've told us that these two angles are supplementary. That means they add up to 180 degrees, right? If angles are supplementary, it means they add up to 180 degrees. Now, to find y, if we know that 30 and y add up to 180, we're going to have to set up an equation. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to say, we know that 30 plus y equals 180 degrees. Okay, and just like with geometry, just like with Pythagoras, as soon as we write an equation in anything to do with geometry, we have to write down how do we know that equation is true. Okay? So our reason for this, like for Pythagoras, you would put Pythag there. Hey? Here, we're going to look to the question. What did they say? They said it was supplementary, so that is our reason. Our reason is supplementary angles. Okay, we've got supplementary angles. So 30 plus y equals 180 degrees, and we're solving for y. So depending on how your teacher taught you equations, they either would have said additive inverse. Okay, if you know what that means, you know what I'm talking about. Or they would have said you take the 30 over and change the sign, and I've forgotten that degree. Okay, so we're going to do y equals 180 minus 30 degrees. Therefore, y equals 150 degrees. Okay, so 30 and y are supplementary, then y must be 150, because 150 and 30 make 180. Okay, so that's how you would set up your answer. Okay, next example. Where did I put it? There we go. Okay, example 2. We're going to find the value of a if 10, 15, and a are complementary. Okay, they've told us that those three angles add up to 90 degrees. Remember, complementary means they add up to 90 degrees. So I've got these three angles, 10, 15, and a, all added together must give me 90. So let's write that down. A plus 10 plus 15 equals 90 degrees, and I've forgotten all of my degree signs. Okay, and our reason, complementary angles. They've told us that my angles are complementary. That's a little symbol to show angle. Okay, so angles. And we solve for a. So either additive inverse. Okay, so you'd subtract 10 on both sides, subtract 15 on both sides, or if you learned it the way where you take it over, you'll take positive 10, make it negative 10. Positive 15, negative 15. So we'll have a equals 90 minus 10 minus 15. So a is equal to 80, 75, 65 degrees. Okay. Next one, question 3. Sorry, I know we've gone a little bit over 20 minutes. Bear with me. Question 3. Are the following sets of angles complementary, supplementary, or neither? Okay, so now we have to decide. They've given us some sets of angles, and we need to decide, are they complementary? So that means, do they add up to 90? Okay, complementary means, do they add up to 90 degrees? Are they supplementary? So supplementary means, do they add up to 180 degrees? That's what they're asking. Or neither. Do they add up to something else? Okay, so how are we going to check this? We're literally going to add them together and see what do we get. Do we get 90? Do we get 180? Or do we get something else? Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. We're adding them together. 15 degrees plus 165 degrees. You should be able to do that without your calculator. Will give us 180 degrees. So we can say if they add up to 180, it means they are supplementary. Therefore, supplementary. Okay, next up, 36 and 54. We're just going to add them together and see what do we get. Okay, 36 degrees plus 54 degrees is 84, 90, hey? 90 degrees. If they've added up to 90 degrees, it makes them complementary. Have I spelled this right? Oop, I forgot the N. Sorry, complementary. Okay, so they added up to 90, therefore they are complementary angles. Next one, 73, 65, and 42. Okay, 73 degrees plus 65 degrees plus 42 degrees. Remember, we're just adding them together to see what do we get. Do we get 90, do we get 180, or do we get something else? Okay, so 73 plus 65 is going to be, oh my goodness, 135, 138, okay? Plus 40 is 178, plus 2 is 180 degrees. Okay, so we did get angles that add up to 180. 180 means they are supplementary. Therefore, our angles are supplementary. Okay, next one, 73 and 27. Adding them together, seeing what we get. Okay, 73 plus 20 is 93, plus 7 is 100 degrees. That is nothing fancy. Okay, there's nothing special about 100 degrees. It doesn't get its own name. It is not complementary. It's not supplementary. It is neither. Okay, it's neither complementary nor supplementary. Okay, now things get a little bit tricky. I know we start to panic when we see letters. X plus 25 and 65 minus x. Now, we need to test, do these add up to 90 or do they add up to 180 or neither? Now, how have we been doing that? We've just been adding them together and seeing what do we get. So we're not going to treat this any differently. Just because we see x's, it doesn't mean we throw our hands in the air and hide under the bed and panic. No, we treat it the same. We add them together and we see what do we get. Okay, so we're going x plus 25 plus 65 degrees minus x. Okay, we add them together and we see what we get. Now, when we see algebra, immediately you need to think like terms. I'm adding algebraic terms. I can only add like terms. So my like terms here are my x's and my constants. I've got two separate types of terms. I've got x's and I've got constants. So I can add my x's together, and I'm adding, remember there's little ghost ones or ninja ones or whatever your teacher calls it, there's little coefficients of a 1 in front of the x's. So we're going 1x minus 1x is 0, right? If you take something and subtract it, you've got none of it left. So you've got 0, and then 25 plus 65 is 60, 70, 85, 90 degrees. So you've got 0 plus 90, which is 90. Okay, my x's cancelled out. I've got no more algebra. Beautiful. I added up to 90 degrees, which means complementary. Okay, so we can say, therefore, my angles are complementary. Okay, and one last one. I actually want you to pause the video and see if you can do this one yourselves, and then play it and see if you got the same as me. Okay. So we see y's, we panic a little bit, then we calm down and say, actually, I just treat this exactly the same as I would if it were numbers. I'm checking to see what they add up to, so we're going to add them all together. 100 plus 2y plus 50 minus y plus 30 minus y, and we're going to see what do we get. Okay, so first off, like terms. Okay, identify which terms you can add and which ones you can't. So we can add our y's together. So we've got a positive 2y, a negative 1y, remember the ghost or the ninja ones, and a negative 1y. Okay, so that's our one type of like term. And then our other type of like term, we've got constants, 100, 50, and 30. Okay, so let's start with our constants. 100 plus 50 is 150. Plus 30 is 180 degrees. And now let's move on to our letters. 2y minus y is 1y. Minus another y is 0y, right? I've got 2y and I take away 2y. I've now got 0. So I've got 180 plus 0, which is just the same thing as 180. You do not have to show this step, okay? You don't ever have to write plus 0. In your head, you immediately know plusing 0 does nothing, okay? So you don't have to show plus 0, but if you want to, you can. Okay, so when we added together these three things, we got 180 degrees, so we can say they must be supplementary angles. Okay, guys, and that is it for this lesson. If anything confused you, go back, rewind, watch it again, or reach out to your teachers if you're a little bit unsure. Okay, by the way, this is Ms. Foster, so if you would like to contact me, let me quickly write my email address at the bottom here. So it's l.foster@edgemedehigh.org.za. Okay, so if you want to email me, this is a lowercase l, not an I. If you want to email me about this lesson, you're welcome to do that. Okay, so next lesson we're going to start the proper high school geometry. Get keen, get excited. See you guys then. I actually don't know how to stop this video.